Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another instructional episode from the Legal Beagle. Today, Brandon and I will be talking about holding fast to the law. We get into a few current details about reality and what it should be, and a little housekeeping note for those that want to understand better or learn about all these documents that we're talking about, either in this video or in any of the others with those guests that come on and tell their stories. You need to be in the Telegram chat, and we can better instruct you that way. And there's tons and tons and tons of stuff to read, and we can direct you to where to find all of that. So the Telegram group, Big Sib Chat, is where to start. There's other groups, but get in there and then ask around, and you'll be able to be directed to where you need to be. So with that being said, without further ado, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's get to Brandon. Welcome back, Brandon. What do we have on the docket today?
Well, Gary, we're going to take current events, and I know I don't do this as regularly as I used to, but today we're going to look across the broad spectrum of reality as it is today versus what we think it should be or what it should be according to the rules of law. I just want one phrase to stick in everybody's mind as we move forward today. Hold fast to the words of the law. Okay, so when I say law, it means that which is laid straight is equally applicable generally to everybody in society. We're not going to put race quotas, restorative justice ideas. We're not going to put our own ideology in it. We're just going to treat every human by the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Respect their life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so
the only commandment you ever need.
That's right. That's right. And so from there, if people are tuned into my channel, you'll notice I've been posting a lot more things that's going on, and there's a reason for that. The heading of yesterday's video is very simple. We have moved from covert infiltration, and we are now moving into what's called overt declarations. And this is across the board, okay? So, and what I mean by that is very simple. The Marxists, the socialists, the deconstructionists, everything else are openly declaring open war on America. And that's fact. It doesn't matter if it's Mike Johnson and the Democrats. It doesn't matter whether we're continuing the degradation of society on campus. Now, listen, folks. These people on the campuses are captured ideologues. What we have created with restorative justice and cultural Marxism is what's called oppressor Olympics. It's a race to the bottom. It's not about excellence, American exceptionalism, or anything like that. It's a race to the bottom to be the most oppressed. So within this framework, within this ideological framework, anybody that stands on the ideas of life, liberty, and property and American exceptionalism and the ideas of freedom is a target. And we're going to prove that today as I go through this document. What we're going to do, Gary did an excellent video last week on judicial activism and why it's important for us to be politically involved, okay? I'm going to show you another political activist today, but show you how her ideology warps her ability to rule, but also how agency action. So agency courts weren't used until the 1970s. I don't know if people really know that. We had administrative law, but we didn't have actual agency courts. That was brought about in full force in the 1970s. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by an agency court? An agency court is something such as the New York Police Department. Okay, the New York Police Department is an agency of the executive branch of government. Okay, so the ATF is an agency of the executive branch of the federal government. So when you see the ATF and the New York Police Department come together and arrest a citizen, for whatever, gun laws, whatever. That's what we're going to be talking about today. The court, the administrative court, the criminal administrative court is going to apply the agency's interpretation of law breaking. We're going to see today a judge openly admitted that the Second Amendment does not exist in her courtroom. And she said it correctly. She was honest. Her courtroom, the rule of law does not apply there. However, it doesn't matter where we go, how we move. We are going into the realm of Papa Joe, Mama Susie cannot ignore reality anymore. These people are organized, they're funded, and their goal is to destroy America. So, with that said, let us begin. You got anything to add?
I did see that the judge that they brought the illegal immigrants that bum rushed or attacked the Texas State Guard. They dismissed the charges.
Yeah, that's right. Right, and before, even on immigration, in this 90-something billion that was given to Ukraine and Israel, if you haven't read the actual bills, you'll find that over $4 billion was awarded to different Jewish organizations, and I'll say this: HIAS and Jewish World, all these other organizations. We funded another $4 billion for forced immigration. Here's a fact. Milton Friedman, I've put him, made this quote years ago. Because it is one thing to have free immigration to jobs, it is another thing to have free immigration to welfare. And you cannot have both. If you have a welfare state, if you have a state in which every resident is promised a certain minimal level of income or minimum level of subsistence, regardless of whether he works or not, produces it or not, then it really is an impossible thing. So that's an impossibility. So you can't have both, folks. You just can't.
It incentivizes bad behavior,
and that's what they want, right? So what we're doing is an inversion, right? We're going to criminalize good behavior, and we're gonna demystify actual criminal behavior, and under the rules of what's called restorative justice, right? We'll see here that we're going to arrest the man that's simply in his home, and he's applying the rules of entrepreneurship, and yet he's a criminal. But then we flip on the same side in these New York district courts. We can have somebody come in here with a real injured party, witnesses to it, and we'll release them back on the streets under what's called systemic oppression. Okay. These are ideologues. Be aware of them. All right, I'm going to start. Ideology, Section 1, Ideology versus Law. This is from Richard J. Pierce Jr. Is standing law or politics? So we have Richard J. Pierce Jr. Is standing law or politics? North Carolina Law Review, 1999. The empirical analysis of ideology, including those performed by social scientists, Michel Foucault, Richard Dworkin, Roscoe Pound, all these social scientists, as discussed below, has increasingly entered legal research. This recognition of ideology by legal researchers, though, does not involve a dismissal of the role of doctrine in decision-making, though it unfortunately has caused the significance of legal doctrine to be overlooked. Legal researchers have not entirely ignored the broader functioning of doctrine, and a few particular doctrines have even seen serious analysis. Perhaps the best example would be the law of standing and the doctrines relating to it. Richard Pierce has argued and presented some evidence that standing doctrines are entirely ideological, such that a liberal judge would give standing to environmentalists, employees, and prisoners, but not to banks, while a conservative judge would give standing to banks, but not to environmentalists, employees, or prisoners. A more recent study concluded that the judges render law-abiding and predictable decisions where clear precedent and effective judicial oversight exists. Where these variables are absent, however, standing decisions are more likely to be based on judges' personal ideologies. So therefore, what we have wrong in the judicial immunity doctrines and these magistrates allowing to run rampant um, in our lower level courts is an inability to hold them accountable for their decisions at this current time. And what it is based on is judicial doctrines created that create ex post facto laws giving the state complete immunity from suit. Okay, that's completely. When I say state, that includes the federal, state, local, tribal governments, things of that nature. However, that is completely contrary to our constitutional republic, right? It's we the people that hold the inherent sovereignty. And we'll see this in today's great brainwashing technique that's happened, where we have people out there actively going against sovereign citizen movements, right? And yes, there is FBI, CIA, NSA infiltration into all online groups to further muddy the waters and complete the psychological manipulation of people. However, if you simplify everything down, it's called reductionist theory, right? Where you reduce everything down to its basic premise. You don't have to complicate it. And with Ayn Rand's statement in her essay, Man's Rights, this is one of the best equivocations that I have seen on this particular area of knowledge. I'm going to read this to you. If you have not read Man's Rights, I would advise you to. She states there are two potential violators of man's rights: the criminals and the government. The great achievement of the United States was to draw a distinction between these two by forbidding to the second the legalized version of the activities of the first. So we'll go to Lord Acton. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men, even when they exercise influence and not authority. Still more when you superadd the tendency or the certainty of corruption by authority. And this was the greatness of the constitutional republic, because it limited the ability of government to intrude into the private sphere, because for millennia, we know this one truth about mankind's tendencies. And it doesn't matter if it's Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, in the original argumentation for the creation of the constitutional republic, was a totally different man than when he became the president, right? Because Lord Acton's statement here is truthful. All of a sudden, while Thomas Jefferson was president, he started speaking about the exigency of the times, right? And how the executive branch did need more power. But that's a fatal tendency of mankind, is to allow power to corrupt. It's just, this is inherent in nature. We have to accept this reality that is true.
That's why the citizens have to be vigilant, because the price of freedom is forever vigilance.
Well, that's right. That's our duty and obligation in the society anyway, right? And once we allowed others the control over our direction, right, through endless experts and researchers and politicians and academia, we let our ability to defend ourselves go, and it's a folly, really, and it's another way that empathy has been weaponized. But nonetheless, we let it go. Nobody took it from us. As you see right now, what's transpiring in our reality, they're trying to take it. That's the way it always is, and it takes a very small minority to move entire masses. Same thing with the original war against King George. It was a very small minority that was able to move the mass. Well, that's what we have to do. We have to move enough of society to say that's enough. So where are we? We are at a pivotal point in American history where the ideological battleground has reached critical mass. And the common man either will ignore the facts or heed the call. Gary made a wonderful post last week regarding federal district judge nominees and their Senate hearings. While we are in this educational series, I thought it prudent to further discuss the implications of allowing social activists and ideologically captured utilitarians in positions of government. Dexter's Second Amendment challenge. This is Dexter Taylor. This is the case that I was talking about with the judicial activist on the Supreme Court of New York, Kings County. Okay. You see the picture there. That's the judge, right? We'll discuss her a little bit further. But Dexter's Second Amendment challenge, the Honorable Judge Abina Darka had this to say: "Do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. So you can't argue the Second Amendment. This is New York." So New York has succeeded from the rest of the country, just like California has. They have their own rule of law, and it's called the rule of the jungle. But let's discuss this further. Was she telling the truth? Well, it's a half truth, right? And she's married a truth with a lie. And the further we get away from the common law, which dictates that there can be no suit brought criminally or civilly without an injured party, this is how far we can get away from it. Because make no mistake, in this man's case, he neither injured anyone, nor is there any witnesses to the injury. And the ATF and the NYPD raided this man's house on account. Listen to this, folks. This is big, because the FISA 702 surveillance stuff that Congress just passed, this feeds into this, okay? The ATF and the NYPD monitored his mailings. He had some unfinished gun components sent to him, and he had a little machinist shop in his house, and he was building complete guns as a hobby, okay? As a hobby in his home, not selling it, not on social media promoting it, but just the fact that he received something in the mail is how they obtain a warrant to raid his home. No injured party, no victims, and yet his home was raided. He was arrested, and he's currently sitting in Rikers. So let's discuss the actual court that ruled against this man and its actual jurisdiction. Remember, folks, we did this once before. I can't remember what state it was, and then a couple people sent me stuff in Telegram. Yeah, it's right here. Listen, follow the rules, follow the procedure, and find out whether jurisdiction actually applies. Now, I will say this about the attorney that defended him. The unfortunate truth is the attorney's probably not that well educated in the difference between administrative law and constitutional law. He did try to bring up jury nullification. And of course, the judge then turned and directed the jury that if they do not convict this man, that they were going to be held responsible. Now, of course, we know better than that. But here we go again. A jury in America can nullify decisions. We've seen this time and time again. Let's see it play out under the role of restorative justice. If you've ever watched the interviews of O.J. Simpson's trial and the jurors on the trial, they used jury nullification in that trial to not convict O.J. because they thought systemic racism in America was such a problem that O.J. Simpson should have been let go for killing Nicole Simpson and others. I'm serious. Go watch the videos of the jurors. This is factual. Okay. It wasn't that the law was bad. It was restorative justice. But anyway, nonetheless, the Supreme Court of the state of New York includes 62 courts, one Supreme Court for each county. These courts are the highest trial courts in New York State and are of general jurisdiction. Remember, we always have to define what things mean. So we understand that the federal courts of limited jurisdiction, and it's specific in Article 3 courts. Let's go define general jurisdiction. There's a reason, how do I state this? There's a reason so many people in the patriot mythology movement get stuck on corporations and things of that nature, and that you're not a living man. It's because once you dig into this stuff and you see all the corporate minimum contacts and everything else in there, how it's immersed into the administrative law. Because by rule of law, in order for a regulatory agency to have complete jurisdiction over you, you must have corporate, be a corporate entity. Okay. And it's been abused for the last 40 years. There's actually a case right now, I think it's Jarksy versus the SEC in the Fifth Circuit, maybe in the Supreme Court, that the Institute for Justice is pushing forward. That has great implications on this also, because they're going after the administrative law too. So the first domino that must fall, Chevron deference. The second one's probably going to be Jarksy versus the SEC. General jurisdiction is a court's authority to hear any type of case which is not vested in another court. Often, states will vest their trial courts with general jurisdiction. For example, Article 6, Section 14 of the Arizona Constitution grants superior courts, the state's trial courts, general jurisdiction by granting them jurisdiction over, among others, the following: equity cases, criminal cases amounting to a felony or misdemeanor, civil cases where the value of property in dispute exceeds $1,000, matters of probate, and any case of proceeding in which exclusive jurisdiction is not vested by law in another court. General jurisdiction is a form of minimum contacts that may enable a court to exercise personal jurisdiction over a corporate defendant in that state without violating due process, irrespective of the nature of the claim. Compare specific jurisdiction. So what we want to do is, I went to the King County website, and this is the 2nd Judicial District Supreme Court, where this judicial activist operates. And on their front page, this is the declaration. It is my pleasure as administrative judge to welcome you to the official website of the Kings County Supreme Court, criminal term. Our courthouse is one of the newest in New York State and is the most technologically advanced. So we don't even have to go any further than that. Do you see anything on the left-hand side that has any information about the New York Constitution?
Why would there be?
Well, there isn't.
Right.
There is not. Yeah. So the rights reserved under the Constitution of the state, even under the state of New York, do not apply in this court. So the judge was telling a half-truth. Okay. She's telling the truth that doesn't exist in her courtroom. However, she's telling a lie that they can bring a criminal matter under general jurisdiction without a victim and probable cause. Okay.
And due process.
Well, that's right. That's right. So in order to execute a warrant, they would have to have probable cause and reasonable suspicion that criminal activity was occurring. Here's the problem in states like New York, that the cities are about passing all kind of laws to make everything that is a constitutional reserved right a criminal action. Okay. And they're running through these damn kangaroo courts and applying every single one of these judicially created doctrines to you and I. Now
it's like they all forgot that state can't take a privilege, turn in, and or take a right, turn into a privilege, and charge you for it. I think it's Pilgrim. I think that's the name of the Supreme Court case. Yeah.
So administrative hearings are the proceedings conducted by administrative law judges, ALJ, for disputes involving the regulatory jurisdiction of an executive agency. Administrative hearings resemble, remember this word, resemble judicial proceedings in many ways, where there being pretrial matters, complaints, presentation of opposing arguments and evidence, and a final judgment. However, administrative hearings usually have more flexibility in procedure and involve less time than a judicial proceeding. They only have the appearance, remember, quasi-judicial. That's what administrative law is. That's what administrative judges are. They are not judges. They are magistrates. They are quasi-judicial. The New York City Police Department, officially the City of New York Police Department, is the primary law enforcement agency within the corporate limits of New York City. Established on May 23rd, 1845, the NYPD is the largest, one of the oldest municipal police departments in the United States. So we have an agency action, and this is from the document for Dexter Taylor. However, when a joint ATF NYPD task force discovered he was legally buying parts from various companies, they opened up an investigation that led to a SWAT raid and arrest, and an administrative judge openly declaring that the Second Amendment doesn't exist in her courtroom. So here's the next question: how did the ATF and the NYPD obtain a legal warrant to arrest this man when he was legally buying parts from various companies, and use the information? There's another judicial doctrine out there. Let me pull it from me, where that was created. Hold on. Where when without a warrant, if they find evidence of a crime or what they call a crime, they're able to use it against the person. It's a judicial doctrine out there created. It's federally judicially created too. However, what we're going to go back to is the common law.
What does it say? How they found out that he was getting the parts? Were they investigating the company that were sending it to him, or did the mail inspect what was being shipped, or how that happened?
No. So the implications here is that they're tracing this everything done online, right? This is the problem with the FISA documents. So as I'm sure this is going to go to the Article 3 Court of New York, which is the appellate division where he has constitutional rights. I'm sure this case will end up all the way in the Supreme Court at some time in the future. However, yes, by reading all the information I can find on this case is that the ATF and NYPD were intercepting private information online. This is a big problem, folks. This is a huge problem moving forward. And our Congress and our Senate has just did Patriot Act 2.0, okay, by granting these people. So show me the man. I think it was Goebbels. I'm not sure if it was Goebbels or maybe Stalin. Show me the man. I'll show you the crime. Okay. That's where we are at. It's not where we're going anymore. This is where we're at. I'm not the biggest Trump fan on earth, but we're watching this lawfare play out even on someone like Trump. Same thing happening with Dexter Taylor right here. Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. The purpose of this particular ideology versus law episode is to continue to impress upon all of you that there's only one way to defeat this ideology, and it is not through the world of subjectivism. Okay, whatever your metaphysics are, that's great, but that doesn't apply to civil society and the rules of decorum. What we have to have is objective facts that reasonable people. Now, listen, all these ideologues, these aren't reasonable people.
Clearly.
They're irrational, unreasonable, and they cannot apply the rules of logic to anything because they're ideologically captured. Their faith is intertwined into their ideology, and it's not in the realm of anything that we can apply to the natural world.
This case is a good point to bring up, that everyone, at minimum, should be using a VPN while they are online, because at least it's encrypted end to end. Now, there's a lot of VPN companies out there. I'm not going to get into what you should or shouldn't do, but a VPN for everything you do online should be implemented at minimum. Go.
Yeah. The purpose of this particular talk on current events is to impress again upon everyone the purpose of perfecting your methodology. Gary is on the receiving end of my what would I say it? My research techniques, right? I'm very unorthodox. In many ways, I'm undisciplined. but it's impossible for you to retain every bit of information that you've read, especially when it involves such wide range. For instance, we got a case against the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, right? Completely different set of rules, standards, procedures that we have to do. I've got one against wildlife and fisheries, continental land and fur, completely different set of issues. Gary's case in Chattanooga kind of lines up with that one. So we're not far outside the realm. That's pretty easy. Then we've got the COVID cases, and then we've got the judicial cases. Let me tell you something, folks. You cannot remember it all, but if you can remember the bits and pieces, and then when it comes time for you to get back in it, right? You're gonna start remembering things, and just simply read it over and over again.
Yeah, and they're all based on principles. So as you learn these things, you learn what the principle is, and then even if you don't remember the exact case, you know that's you need to go look for that principle. So that's how I do it. I remember through principles.
Well, that's right. And I just started working again on the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. I could remember the principles. I couldn't remember the cases. And next thing you know, I've got 60 posts for Gary to go through and put together our little packet for when. Oh, by the way, for everybody out there, we got oral hearings on May 8th.
May 8th, oral
May 8th.
arguments.
Yeah, up in tribal court, guys. We'll let you know how that goes.
With the Harvard attorney, Carl Bryant.
With the Harvard man. So the purpose of perfecting your methodology is to not rely on hearsay. The above judge is an equity judge. However, she is sentencing a black man for pursuit of happiness. John Locke writes, the necessity of pursuing happiness is the foundation of liberty. So we can equate happiness and property, okay? And this is based on the individual's pursuits dependent on his personal goals, right? Some individuals don't need much. Some people want to acquire a lot. However, once he obtains it, it's his property. It's his pursuit of happiness. If one were to go read everything about Dexter Taylor, all he's telling you is he found a hobby that he started enjoying, got excited about. We've all done this, right? Once we get excited about something, what do? We go all in. As therefore, the highest perfection of intellectual nature lies in a careful and constant pursuit of true and solid happiness. So the care of ourselves that we mistake not imaginary for real happiness is the necessary foundation of our liberty. The stronger ties we have to an unalterable pursuit of happiness in general, which is our greatest good, and which as such our desires always follow, the more are we free from any necessary determination of our will to any particular action. That's page 348, part 2, the moral principle. The pursuit of happiness is also the foundation of political liberty. Since God has given everyone the desire to pursue happiness as a natural right, the government should not interfere with anyone's pursuit of happiness so long as it doesn't interfere with others' rights to pursue happiness. And that's a great moral principle, right? We'll talk about it over and over again ad nauseum.
It's the golden rule.
Without a victim, without an injured party, there can be no crime. And however, we have enough volumes of regulatory and agencies, rulemaking, and everything else that could fill probably the entire halls of Congress, right? I can't imagine how many words have been written to circumvent our constitutionally secured rights. However, we are all living witnesses to lawfare being used against we the people. And we'll always go back to Gramsci's global hegemony and the infiltration and subversion of the institutions of America had to have happened. We see this at Princeton. We see this at Yale. We see this at Columbia, Stanford. It doesn't matter. NYU. Doesn't matter which one of these institutions. But this inner school, the professors and things of that nature are completely completely social, cultural Marxists. Okay. So therefore, the children that have come up through K through 12, right, in the public indoctrination centers are completely captured ideologues. We are now living in the time where attorneys, the Bar Association, have no discernment for truth, only the pushing forward of what is called lawfare. This is Jack Smith. This is the prosecutor in New York. And that lawfare is only aimed at one set of people. Okay, you can call it Republicans, conservatives, but that's not really what it is, because you got neocons within the Republican movement that is part of the Uniparty. What it is the attack is on people who find that the fundamental liberties of man is reserved to man. So we must attack those people. Those people who are degenerate are released back into society because they play a role in society, and it's called the destruction of it. So we are living witnesses to lawfare being used against we the people on the daily in victimless crimes with no injured party, and on the alternative, crimes with victims and actual provable injuries, the courts and district attorneys release the violent offenders back into society, citing systemic injustices.
It's Cloward and Piven. Overwhelm the system so you can destroy it and create what you want.
Yeah, what is that? You said it. The Cloward and Piven.
Cloward and Piven.
Yep. Strategy. That's exactly what it is. That's where we're at.
Rules for radicals. Rules for radicals. It's the name of the book.
Yeah. And people, if you don't know about the Piven idea, please look it up. It's been, again, the United Nations, WEF, the Theosophical Society, the Kabbalistic side of Tikkun Olam, the Christian Zionists, and everything. It doesn't matter where you go. These people are religious zealots. They're bringing about the necessary change to destroy individualism. That's what it's all about. It's all about the destruction of the individual.
The scribes and the Pharisees, as the Bible would recall them.
That's right. Dexter Taylor was identified as Uncle Tom. Whether he knew it or not, he probably didn't even know it. He does not fit into this category of systemic injustices. Therefore, he is seen as an oppressor or a traitor. And hold on, because one of the things that's going on right now is during the last 4 years, because the current issue is not the issue, folks. The revolution is the issue, okay? It doesn't matter if it attaches itself to Black Lives Matter, Palestine, whatever. The truth is that whiteness must be destroyed, which is rugged individualism. That's the idea encapsulated in this whole white issue. However, in Oppression Olympics, what happens is that the once oppressed can become the oppressor. And what you're seeing today is American Jews, American socialist, Marxist Jews being baffled that they have become the target, right? But Marxism and any collective ideology eats its own, right? It eats its own. It's like the what was the old Greek god that the Titan that ate his own children?
Was it Zeus? No,
it
Zeus. It was
the Titan. It was the father of Zeus, the Titan. I can't.
Yeah, I can't bring it to name.
I can't remember.
Maybe someone will tell us in the comments, and I'm sure they will.
Well, right. Well, the idea has gotten so big, it must continue consuming itself, right? One way to make up the debt owed to people of color, and this is, I'll pull this up real quickly.
Yeah, and so it's just basically, the oppressed become so oppressed that we protect them in a protected class, and then they become the oppressors because we have to protect them so much we can't hit them with kid gloves only, and then they assume power and start saying that, well, you can't touch me because I'm an oppressed.
That's right. And that's why I call it the Oppressor Olympics, right?
Right.
Because again, equity, forced equity, and all these ideas, affirmative action, everything else is a race to the bottom. It's not a race to the top. It's a race to the bottom. The quotes that I'm about to pull up are from William and Mary's College, addressing systemic harms through restorative justice principles. I just want people to see that this is what our colleges are teaching. Okay. One way to make up a debt owed to people of color is changing the prison system to a restorative justice process. This process involves a formal conference between those directly involved in the crime, as well as family and community members. The conference allows the victim to be a part of the system that directly involves their emotions and being, and the offender is held accountable, as well as the community. This essay will look, and I find these things to show you that the topics that I discussed they're all related, right? You're going to see the same names over and over again. That you can't be you cannot be a racist unless you're an anti-racist, right? And all these stupid ideas that these people expound, and the only way to be an anti-racist is to be racist. These ideas make no sense, but nonetheless, this essay will look into brilliant writings of Angela Davis, Michel Foucault, and restorative justice scholars such as Howard Zinn, Rupert Ross, and Kay Primus, as well as other academics from different backgrounds. These authors come from historical, sociological, philosophical, and government backgrounds. Incorporating a multitude of perspectives is helpful in understanding the big picture, but it also is evidence that multiple fields of study have come to a similar conclusion about the benefits of restorative justice. Because this is the case, it is all the more reason to give restorative justice a fair look. Showcase the actual document. There's the link. The only possible way to wage war with this is by focusing on objective reality, because facts do matter, and they will matter again to this society. Make no mistake, do not worry about how far this country is going to fall apart and all that stuff. Don't get lost in the sidetracks, because I'm going to suppose a hypothesis. Enough Americans have warned, enough people have warned for 60, 70 years about the dangers of communism and socialism. It is unfortunate, but the truth is that humans do not learn without experience. Therefore, we are here now, and we are going to experience some death throes here. But make no mistake, all shall be revealed. It is time to recognize that we will hold firm to the words of the law, knowing that individualism is the way out of this collective dystopian nightmare. So they will matter again to this society.
And a good point that we all need to keep in perspective here is the most organized, when things fall apart, are the ones that win. So that's why we need to be educated in all of this law, so that we can be the ones organized to reestablish it, because it's going to fall apart. It's going to fall apart. It's very clear at this point.
Well, and we'll expound on this idea too, because Alphonse has made a great point, and you and I have discussed it in the reason behind creating the Legal Beagle channel, and the reason why I'm going to go do another episode with the guys over in England in the very near future, and I'm going to do more episodes all across the world. There has to be more of us come together and actually support each other in ways that is, for instance, there's a lady in our groups, Pat. She's not a litigating lawyer, but she's one of the best at FOIA requests. My God, is she helping Alphonse with the FOIA requests and digging for information? If you can do that, if that's what you're going to do, be a part of the solution. Know that most of us, well, for me anyway, I have a job, I have children, I do as much as I can in the limited amount of time that I have to give to it. If help in some way, it doesn't have to be money. Go start doing FOIA requests for things that that you can get information on and give facts to people that are in litigation. You can help out. don't think that you can't help. There's always a path. So the only question that we have now, as we are faced with this reality, is how far down into the dystopian nightmare will we allow these psychopaths to take us? I know for me, myself, Gary, Alphonse, we've said, oh, that's enough. James the Patriot, this is enough, okay? This is far enough. The only question, therefore, is how far are you willing to let it take? What is your commitment to the truth? And we're just going to need more of us doing it, whether it's applying as friends of the court and filing amicus briefs, whether it's somebody saying, you know what, I'm interested in this Dexter Taylor guy. I'm gonna see how I can help him. Who knows? But it is definitely time for us to recognize and realize the covert infiltration and subversion of our institutions is at its precipice. We're moving into overt displays and declarations that we intend to shut down your society. And that's not just coming from academia. It's also coming from Congress. It's also coming from the executive branch. And it's also coming from the Senate. Okay? I know this is
municipality, state, on down the line.
On down the line. It's all the way down the line. Now, I know this is a slight deviation from reading law, a matter of interpretation. However, I think it's necessary. Nonetheless, I thought it is important to continue highlighting how the administrative law and agency interpretations continue to be abused by judicial activists and people who absolutely hate our country. It's not that they hate our freedom. They hate freedom, period. They want the state as the divine entity on earth. However, with that said, I hope this edifies each and every one of you. Know that we are witnessing what we are witnessing today on college campuses and within academia is bound to a religious framework. So I'll read this quote about religious zealots. Religious fanatics are the worst. They're basically impossible to bargain with. And each of you out there will know this. So somebody that is ideologically captured in within a religious framework, you cannot shove evidence. They'll do mental gymnastics to jump outside that framework, okay? They accept no outside opinion about anything, and they departed from reality well before you met them. So with that, you got any closing statements, Gary? I hope each and every one of you enjoyed it.
I'd say the only way to reach people of this nature is to ask them a question that makes them think about a conflict and them come to a different conclusion. There's no browbeating. It's not possible. It's just like Bible thumping to an atheist. Never going to happen. You just have to ask soft questions that make people go, well, you're right. That doesn't make sense. And then that may change their thinking. It may not, but.
It's called the Socratic method, by the way. And it's a great method to use on people to actually get them thinking. Now, whether they want to go down the rabbit hole and challenge their inner held convictions is on them. That again, this is biblical knowledge. We're seed planters. They must turn on the light and God gives the increase, right? So all we can do is plant the seed.
Plant the seed and let God water it.
That's right.
All right, until next time, we'll see you next Thursday, God willing.